is to what's going on in this global crisis. And we're very fortunate to have joining us on the line right now Dr. Norton, who is director of the Palladium Group, and he is a co-founder of the Balanced Scorecard Collaborative, which is a very interesting collection of ideas and a group of people who are coming together to really help refocus what we're doing in the business world. Welcome to the program, Dr. Norton. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
When we look at what's going on around us, when we look at the issues that are facing us in a global context right now, we hear an awful lot of negatives. One of the issues that you've been talking about is, yes, there's a lot of negative things going on, but there is also a positive side to what's happening. And that is essentially where we lead into the Balanced Scorecard Collaborative. Can you talk a little bit about looking at the positive side and how you see what's going on in a positive nature?
Well, the positive side, you have to look beyond the present and look into the future. And a recession is always ugly. It creates a loss of jobs and so forth. But on the other side of the recession, companies, new kinds of companies will come out of it. Companies that have figured out the new economics, the new business model, and have adapted and developed new strategies for coping. And I think what the work that I and my colleague Bob Kaplan have pioneered over the past decade or so has been working with companies to help them build systematic ways to execute strategy. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but if you think about every organization has a strategy, for coping. They have customers, they have products, they have shareholders. They have to have a strategy to achieve those objectives. But what we've found over the years is very few organizations can successfully execute their strategies. I mean, the research indicates that something like 9 out of 10 organizations fail to execute. And so we've been working. And the basic reason for this is that organizations don't have a way to describe what their strategy is.
But can I interrupt for a second? When you're talking about organizations not being able to describe what the strategy is, but surely these different organizations have read Porter and the executives coming out of management schools have gone through that read those seminal texts and strategy. Is this not, from your perspective, is this not the case?
Well, sure. They have read them. They've read many books. They've read the Blue Ocean Strategy. Yeah. They've read Core Competencies. They've read Six Sigma. So how do you put all that together? Those are all parts of a strategy. Okay. But how do you describe it in a cohesive way? How do you describe it so that you can put 10 business people in a room and ask them to describe their strategy and come out with something that looks similar? Okay. There's no generally accepted way to do this. Let me contrast that to, say, your financial strategy. Now, if you ask a business person to describe their financial strategy, well, they'll give you an income statement. They'll give you a balance sheet. There are structures that one uses to describe the finance, but there are no structures, analogous structures that are used to describe the strategy.
So this is where we talk about this whole Balanced Scorecard Collaborative. This is a way to help lead the leaders into being able to reconsider strategy. Is that ultimately what we're talking about?
Well, it's about execution. Okay. And that's the key. And I think in most cases, what you find is that most organizations have the same strategies, or very similar strategies. And so it's really not about the strategy. It's about execution. And execution means getting thousands of people on the same page, to understand the mission, the direction that they're moving in. And so it's about execution. And the Balanced Scorecard was the key idea that kind of started moving us in our thinking about execution, because what the Balanced Scorecard did was it gave organizations a way to describe what the strategy is. It was kind of filled the black hole of strategy, if you will. And so the Balanced Scorecard and an idea called strategy maps, which is part of the Balanced Scorecard approach, give an organization a way to describe how they will create value for their shareholders, which is what strategy is. Strategy is how do you intend to create value for your shareholders. And then once you solve that problem, you can address the second problem, which is what is my system to execute that strategy? And so those are the two key ideas. You know, what is the strategy, which is the strategy map and the balanced scorecard, and then how do I execute it, which is about creating a strategy management system.
Do you think that when executives come through this program, come in and sit through these lectures, and it's not just listening, but it's actually doing, do they have that moment where the light comes on and say, we haven't been doing this? And ultimately this...
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, that is, I would say, if that light doesn't come on, then an organization won't change. And I think that there is we have many success stories. We have an award that we call the Balanced Scorecard Hall of Fame, which incidentally the Dubai Water Authority was the recipient of a year ago. And these are companies that have two things in common. Number one, they have succeeded in executing their strategy. And secondly, they use the balanced scorecard approach to doing that. The essential first step in introducing this new way of managing is that this light bulb goes off, as you describe it, in the heads of management that essentially says, the way I'm managing strategy today is not working. I need a better way. And so what we try to do is describe through the success stories, why that there is a better way, and then through the programs like the conference program we'll be doing in Dubai at the end of March, we try to show how, at least give organizations a sense of how to orchestrate these changes, how to build this new management system for the future.
Is there anyone who this wouldn't work for?
Well, I haven't seen. We have now. It's an idea that's been picked up around the world. I think the book, The Balanced Scorecard, has been translated into 22 different languages, and it's been used in just about any country that you can think of, and in any industry, any application. From the traditional kind of manufacturing organizations and service organizations to governments, nonprofits, utilities, and so on. It's been used in just about every kind of corner of the world that you can think of.
So I
think some of the most exciting things that are happening with it now, you can go back and look at like a 15-year evolution, and we started really focusing on in the private sector on for-profit companies, and where you could identify cleanly who the customer was, what the product was, and so forth. And the idea worked there, and it began to spread. Then government agencies started to pick it up. So we would like the city of Brisbane in Australia, began to use the balanced scorecard approach, and we started to see it in nonprofits. But the most exciting application now are where governments, whole of governments, are looking to this as a way to help them manage. And one of the great applications that we're most proud of right now is the Abu Dhabi government, who are looking at these ideas derived from the balanced scorecard, as a way to build their own strategy management process.